Hello and a warm welcome to everyone today. We'd like to wish you good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you're joining from. My name is Scott Cuthbert from Safeopedia, and here at Safeopedia, our mission is to support EHS professionals, operations folks, and any safety-minded individuals with free safety resources. I'd like to extend a huge thank you to those dedicated professionals for great work that they do on a daily basis. And today we're proud to present ensuring you have a risk management plan. The Safeopedia webinar has been made possible by Meltblown Technologies, a preferred manufacturer and member of the AD Safety Network. And today, Scott Bakewell from MBT will go through how a risk management plan will assist your business with safety and cost savings. And we'll go over the keys for a good risk management plan and what benefits they will provide. So it's my pleasure to introduce today the presenter, Scott Bakewell, and I'll turn it over to you.
Scott, thanks a lot, and thanks for the introduction. Yeah, today we're gonna hit topics around risk management and spill control, and how spill control can enhance and supplement the entire program when you're dealing with risks around your workspace or plant. Kevin Clancy is also joining us. Kevin's working closely with me on a lot of the data and the material that we're going to cover. A lot will pertain to the factory space and areas of concerns and liquids, and a lot of areas that spills may affect your workspace. So with that, we'll kind of kick it off and really kind of dive into what we're kind of talking about here. So, what is risk management? Kevin, why don't you take it away? Why don't you give them the definition of how we picked it up?
So, risk management is a strategic process that outlines how an organization or project team will identify, assess, manage, and mitigate risks that could potentially impact the success of a project or business operation. It serves as a roadmap to proactively address uncertainties and minimize their negative effects.
And how does sorbents come into play?
Sorbents assist with risk management by ensuring quick response to dangerous leaks and spills. Stuff like our MBT sorbents keep walkways clean and ensure foot traffic safety.
Right. So, when we're working with our distributor partners who are working with you, the end user, directly, these are areas that we're talking to them about to help assist and identify potentials that could impact you and have impact, or that you may want to highlight in your risk management or risk mitigation program. So, with that, there's certain risk assessment questions that if we're visiting end users, we ask, and these come into play in a lot of cases. And, we highlighted some specific areas here to kind of think about for your business in general. So the first is, what are your potential risks, or what potential risks do we face as a company? Identify all potential risks: financial, operational, legal, reputational, and certainly environmental. Consider both internal and external factors that could impact your business. Another would be, what is the likelihood of the impact of each risk? So assess the probability of each risk occurring and potential consequences if it does. So this helps prioritize risks based on their severity. Another area would be, what controls or measures are currently in place to mitigate risk. So evaluate existing risk management strategies, policies, tools, and determine the effectiveness and identify any gaps. So, we'll take a pause here. When you're working, especially in a manufacturing setting, and you're on the floor, there's certainly going to be risks. Some of those areas where MBT comes into play would be spill control. So helping mitigate risks of slip and fall or possibly contamination or environmental problems. That's where our product comes in, and some of our partners will bring our product in to help you mitigate that risks. So I think a lot of times when we're working with end users, whether it be a manufacturer in an industrial setting or maybe a service company or something like that, these are areas that we like to talk to, team members about safety personnel or environmental personnel about areas of concern, whether it be personal or environmental or maybe areas along those lines. So again, kind of getting into who's responsible for managing or monitoring the risks. Assign a clear ownership of risk management. Take risk management tasks to specific individuals or team members to ensure accountability and ongoing monitoring. So I kind of was jumping ahead a little bit, but it's really important to have a clear team structure or chain of command when it comes to managing the risk structure in your business. What's your plan for responding to risk if they materialize? So develop contingency plans, including specific actions to take, communication strategies, and recovery processes to minimize impact of risk. So building the team that's going to react to the risk is extremely important as well. Kevin, all great points. Do you have any backup of where you found some of this information?
I mean, a lot of this stuff is found on risk. There's a thousand articles online from various industries saying how important risk management is. The key for us was applying it to our things to sorbents because that's where our knowledge and attention lies. So, if you're applying who's responsible for risks, you want to put in somebody who's in safety, who's dealing with the water system, things like that. But you got to ask who in the safety team is responsible for each risk to make sure that you're applying strategy effectively.
Right. Thanks for some of that feedback. So when it comes to spill control and your risk management strategy, it's important to identify the risk. So risk identification. So it could be the machines. So what machines use lubrication? What water systems are in use? Where are the break points? Assessing the risk. Pull in possibly an MB team member or a team member from your supplying distributor to help assess where the facility needs sorbent assistance to mitigate risk. So, simply stated, that's having us or our distributor partner do a walkthrough and really look at areas that are concerning. You may have areas that are of concern that you work on every day. We may see others, or we may say, "Hey, listen, we could put together a really simple plan to help you mitigate the risk of a slip and fall by, putting a spill kit program in place, something like that. Have a risk mitigation strategy. Meet with your team members, um, discuss creative strategies to help mitigate the risk. So really have your plan as an ongoing program. Clearly identify the roles and responsibilities. Who will manage the process at the facility? Should be the same team. If it's something where you're working in an area and you have people that are moving around or maybe moving from facility to facility, review your program twice a year. It's that simple. Monitoring and reviewing business on a regular basis, touch base with your team members to make sure that they have the spill control products they need. So if you really read through that, we're kind of basing it on our distributors talking to you, the end user, but understand that you should constantly looking at what you have in place product wise to react to any risk or incident that may occur, like a potential leaky hose or a machine breakdown or possibly a hydraulic line blowing. all important and all present in our everyday operation. Have a communication plan, again, weekly, monthly, quarterly. Make sure to check with your team members on their risk management strategy. So it's always important to stay ahead of these things so we can prevent any kind of occurrence from happening. This is what we usually find as team members or end user at your level decision makers in this process, and it's usually assigned to possibly an EH&S manager, an operations manager, possibly transportation or facilities managers, and on occasion even maintenance managers are tied to it, and they build their teams from there. Um, Very important to kind of understand who is managing this process in your operation, your daily operation. So why is risk management important? So it reduces financial losses for sure. Companies with an effective risk management strategy are 30% less likely to experience significant financial losses due to unforeseen dangers to people, equipment failure, or catastrophic loss. So in our case, with our product that we manufacture, which is a polypropylene absorbent, whether it be a absorbent pad or sock or possibly even a spill kit, the product is there not only to keep the workplace clean, but also safe, and then in compliance, especially with environmental laws dictated by your state. Most importantly, though, is slip and fall. So I can't tell you how many times I've walked through a factory and you're walking in an area around machines and there's standing oil or coolant that's coming off the machine. It may just be overspray off the machine. Very important to have absorbents around the base of the machine to catch that overspray because one of the number one causes of injury is a slip and fall in a facility. And a simple plan to have absorbents staged or used in regular maintenance will certainly limit that risk. Improve decision making. Businesses that integrate risk management analytics into their operations report 25% improvement in decision making efficiency. So, again, having a program like this, and it ties into, a lot of different things, not only spill control, but certainly um, a lot of different areas around safety and maintenance, even will improve your business, simply stated. Enhance business continuity. Organizations with robust risk analysis and management plans are 40% more likely to recover quickly from disruptions. Simply stated, when you have a plan in place that you can jump into the plan if something happens or maintain a regular cadence of good risk management, you're going to perform in a higher capacity. It's just that simple. Companies that don't have a program in place usually stop everything, break down. They have to reset. They have to deal with the issue, maybe call people in. They're not quite sure what to do. When you have a process in place, and especially I'm going to tie it to spill control, you continue on with your business. You isolate the area, you take care of the problem, and you move on. It's very simple. It's a regular cadence. That's why we stress it so heavily, especially around our product. Kevin, how many times have we talked about customers that we've had issues with that are calling in emergency orders because they didn't have the proper product in place?
Oh, it's got to be once a week that we get somebody who didn't have product on hand. They meant to order it and they kept forgetting, kept putting it off. And then finally day comes, there's a spill. They need it today.
Right, exactly. Reputation protection. So we talk about this a lot, especially with higher profile companies, utility companies, especially because they're always on the news whenever there's an occurrence, a weather occurrence or something like that. So reputation protection. 70% of businesses cite risk management as a key factor in managing their brand reputation during crisis. So morale, work environment, cleanliness. Huge factors when it comes to a well-run business, and it is part of the risk management assessment and plan. Whenever I visit with companies, I talk to the people on the floor. That's the biggest thing, and I try to share that with our distributor partners. Really, really key to understand what the person that's doing the work is seeing, what they think about it, what they would like to see maybe as part of their program, especially with us, it's spill control. But you get a sense from the folks of what they think about the business they're working for. You can tell about their morale. A lot of times I walk in and I have people come up and they can't tell me, can't wait to tell me what they do for a living or what they're doing around the operation that they're working in, or possibly even how long they've been there. You see like very high morale, and it comes along with a lot of companies that are really well established. They have good processes in place, like risk management. They care about their employees. They care about their work environment. They keep it very clean. And, it's a well-oiled machine, so to speak. Very important. This is something where I spend a lot of my time talking to people on the floor to really see what's going on. Small business success. A lot of our customers are small businesses. So small businesses with a proactive risk management strategy are 50% more likely to survive their first 5 years. You know, I don't think a lot of people, or even, some of the larger economic forums, give small business enough credit. A lot of our customers are small business and they perform very well. They're very entrepreneurial. The good ones do have processes in place. Very important, though, when you think of risk management as a small business, to have a good plan in place. It doesn't have to be robust. It could be simple, but one incident, you know, can take you out of the game. It's that simple, or cause massive disruption. So, great being a small business, a little bit high profile sometimes when it comes to this, because, if there's an incident or an accident or something like that, there's going to be, major consequences, and usually resources are not as robust as it would be in a large company. So back to the sorbent products, so MBT sorbents. So just keeping it really simple, 96% of end users, you folks out there, use sorbents on a daily basis. Kind of understand how sorbents play into risk management planning, right? Understand what sorbents you're using now. A lot of times folks, aren't even sure what they're ordering, because it becomes something that they just order on a whim out of a website, or off a website, or through a catalog, and they're not on a regular program. Talk to your distributor, AD partner distributor, that's selling you other products or putting plans in place. Talk to them about MBT sorbents, get in some kind of normal routine. Request samples from your distributor to try, because some will be better than others for certain applications. And again, ask to get us involved. We'll be happy to come out and take a look and help you with your planning. So again, kind of wrapping it up, just remember, absorbance, sorbent spill control is a key in a risk management plan. It's a key product in a risk management plan. We're here to help. Hopefully there's some benefit here. This isn't exactly how we usually go through a normal presentation on spill control. We wanted to tie it to a program that we know you have and you manage daily, and hopefully there was some benefit to that today. Okay, Scott,
Yeah.
back to you.
Well, thanks, Scott and Kevin. That was a great presentation, great points. I think reputation, and even just the making sure small businesses are being proactive and getting that risk management plan in place is really good advice. We have a few questions for you before we let you go today. So, can you elaborate on the specific risks that sorbents are most effective in mitigating?
Again, kind of, I think I mentioned this at the beginning, but it's really slip and fall. Certainly slip and fall. Um, that would be the number one cause. Could be equipment damage too from sliding on, an oily floor. And I mean, a heavy piece of equipment, a wheeled piece of equipment, but 95% of the time it's somebody having a medical issue because they fell and hurt themselves.
And what are the key factors to consider when selecting the appropriate sorbent from for a specific risk? You mentioned about just the automatic reordering without really knowing what you're getting.
Yeah, it's really important to kind of understand where your break points are, or pinch points. So like when you're looking at a machine, a lot of times there's repairs needed on machines, but they're not done because they don't want to take machines down to and cause, delay and runtime and things like that. So they use sorbents in its place, but it's really important to kind of understand where the pinch points are, where the break points are, what types of fluids are leaking, whether it be an oil or maybe a coolant, water-based. The volume would determine, whether it be maybe a lighter weight product versus a heavy weight. Um, also the foot traffic or vehicular traffic in the area. So like if we're looking at the machine we have up now, we have a wider universal roll where there could be some overspray coming out maybe 30 inches from there. We want to give that area a good covering so the person that's working around the machine can walk on that too. So something with a good heavy cover stock that's not going to tear under your feet. So, certainly, again, fluid, pinch and break points, and then, traffic, whether it be foot or vehicular.
Great. Yeah. And you touched on cost earlier, and obviously for small business, cost is important. And for most safety managers and safety programs out there, they're dealing with budget constraints. So how do sorbents compare to other risk management tools regarding the cost effectiveness and efficiency?
It's interesting when you look at companies that have sorbents in place. I'll give you an example without using the name, but we had a end user in the Northeast that was using, universal absorbent pads, and a lot, like 100 bales, 100 packages a month. So it's a pretty good size end user, but they're creating a lot of oil, a lot of overspray, a lot of oil coming off the machines. And they decided as a cost savings measure, they're going to eliminate this out of their spill control plan and put back like a mop bucket, basically mop bucket, soapy water, and have the maintenance guy clean it up. And, right there, you're adding costs without even seeing it because it's just man hours, right? Well, not a great way of cleaning up oil, especially if it doesn't get done. And unfortunately, about 3 weeks after they took the spill control products out, they had a slip and fall. One of their workers fell and actually broke her elbow, right? So that, of course, drew, loss of time from work. She was injured. Certainly, workman's comp, OSHA violation. So OSHA had a visit, and not only did they cite them for an unsafe work environment because of, the slip and fall areas, but they also got them for unguarded GFIs on the wall and things like that that they weren't even thinking about, like where you plug in an extension cord wasn't caged. So all in all, I had heard the fines were in the area of about $500,000. Now, to give you an idea, what they would spend in sorbent a year to avoid the slip and falls would have been around $20,000, right? So
Right.
it's kind of relative. I mean, sorbents are not the most expensive thing in your plant or expensive product, I should say. They're necessary in making the right determination on the product. 9 times out of 10, customers are using something too heavy. And when we walk in, we could tell them, hey, you can cut this back a little bit because you're going to get great absorbency, but you don't need all the bells and whistles this pad has, like the cover stocks or whatever. So it's not a huge cost. but what it could reduce in cost is significant. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
That makes
that's a
sense, Scott?
great point. Yeah, that's a great point for sure. Now, safety pros love their metrics. So when you're advising the facility, how do you help them set up the measurements to measure the effectiveness of sorbents in mitigating risk, and what metrics are typically used, or what do you typically see?
It's going to be for our type of stuff. It's really simple. It comes down to days without incident, right? Because a lot of times, again, our product's on the floor, right? So when we're looking around, and we tell all our distributor partner friends and sales reps, look down and around, right? So you're looking
Yeah,
on the floor for sorbents or potential, areas that could be a slip and fall. It kind of goes without saying. It's days without incident. It's simply that. Whenever somebody has a slip and fall or, something like that, there's going to be some sort of record of it and it's going to be an incident. So if you're measuring days without incident, that would be a key. Now, certainly we can dive deeper. I don't think we have time to really go into
right.
the, the larger picture stuff, but really that's simply it for me. When I walk in, my main goal is to help prevent that type of occurrence.
So you mentioned using the right product in the right situation. So are there any limitations or challenges associated with using sorbents in the risk management strategy?
I would say there's really not challenges. Sometimes the challenge could be if a customer is using a granular product like a floor sweep, um, and they don't see the cost benefit immediately because they're buying the floor sweep for, you know, $10 a bag, but what they're not maybe looking at is what it would take to pick up the floor sweep or the dust from the floor sweep getting into the machine and possibly causing a breakdown. There's also whether that floor sweep can go into a landfill or be incinerated. So there's a lot of disposal issues around that. Um, other costs can, it may be around just selecting the right absorbent. 9 times out of 10, we find, a user's using something way too robust for their application, and we're able to help them with that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, on that note, and again, you talked about small business, and hopefully larger organizations have a comprehensive plan. But if you don't, like, how can an organization integrate sorbents into their broader risk management plan and an emergency response?
It should be, part of the ongoing strategy, and it may not be every day, but like even a, smaller business or a larger business. I've been in many meetings, and I'll say even with the smaller business, they may start with something that has nothing to do with the maintenance of the facility. It may have to do more with the maintenance of the equipment or guarding of the equipment, right? Very, very high priority. So you take it in chunks. So I would say that you almost set up a calendar that, every month you have a monthly meeting, but you touch on something different every month. And maybe in smaller businesses, you're going to touch on those points every 2 to 3 months or every quarter, right? So it doesn't need to be talked about every minute, but it does need to be updated occasionally because things change and people change. And you want to be sure, especially when you have changes in personnel, that they're up to date on the policies, the procedures, what to do, where to go for it, and how to use it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
a great point. Now, you talked a little bit about the distributor partners and the AD safety network, and obviously your team has a wealth of knowledge and experience. But what training or resources would you recommend for teams to effectively implement sorbents into their risk management practices?
You know, um, here at MBT, regarding our AD partnerships, our AD industrial and safety distributors around the country, these are folks that we've had long-term relationships with. I mean, that's one of our key focuses within MBTs are strong relationships, because where you have strong relationships, it's much easier to build comprehensive plans for your customers. And a lot of what we do is listening. We listen to our distributor partners and our customers about what they want to see. What we've done in the last few years, and honestly, we haven't updated it lately, but we put together a virtual plant tour on our website. It's under our resource center, and I'm sure right now Kevin's sending you a message on it. It's a really kind of simple walkthrough of a small plant, a small facility, and it shows areas where sorbents are used and has some narration of why they would be used. Um, we have some descriptions of product and why they would be used in certain applications. So it gives a really um, robust but simple overview. And we've gotten a lot of compliments on this from larger partners and end users as well, to say, hey, listen, this was great. It was really simple. It wasn't over the top. It's not staged where it looks like you had a company come in and stage
Right.
it out. We went into a facility and we said, hey, we want to do this, and they let us do it, and we didn't change anything.
Great. Well, we'll definitely include that in the description of the webinar today, so that anybody can access that information and go through the tour.
Great.
Just shared the link in the chat.
Yeah, I've got it. Well, Scott and Kevin, thank you so much for your presentation today. Very informative. You're really to the point as well. Really appreciate that. And thank you to Meltblown Technologies for sponsoring the presentation. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to walk through the questions that we had for you as well. So on behalf of Safepedia, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar, and I want to thank all of the dedicated safety professionals for the great work that they do out there on a daily basis in keeping our workplaces safe. So as always, we'll send out the link to the recording. We'll share out the presentation slides as well. And thank you again, and take care, and stay safe.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, everybody.